member for 4 or 5 years, something like that. I've been turning for well over 30 years. Been around since before chucks were invented. So we used faceplates when we started out. So anyway, my goal tonight is just to try and talk about gouges and some of the issues that people have with gouges, some of the ways to sharpen gouges. So I'm just going to kind of go over a bunch of different things. And again, my focus, I'm going to cut some wood, to show you how to cut wood and give you a few things that have helped me. By no way or no means is this the science. Wood turning is not a science. It's almost an art. So what I say is not the gospel. It's just things that I've learned that have helped me progress to where I am today. What I want to start with is I'm going to pass some gouges around, and they've got some green tape on them. Could somebody start passing these, grab these and pass them? And the green tape kind of talks about issues with them. And I'm going to try and fix those tonight. And I'll explain what the issues are. Here's another one. Grab this one, pass them around. While those are going around, kind of look at the comments, and then I'll talk about them tonight as we progress. There's many ways to sharpen gouges. There's jigs out there. This is the Wolverine jig that I'm using. Every jig, you can do a terrible, terrible job of sharpening. Okay? The jig is not the answer. Unfortunately, it's the yo-yo behind the jig. And that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight, is that the jig is not the panacea. It's not going to make it foolproof. It's not foolproof. And that's really what I'm going to focus in on tonight. And I'm going to talk about two different angles. And I'm going to use this stick to demonstrate. A standard gouge is usually ground at about 45 degrees. Give or take between 40 and 45. It might be 43, it might be 42 and a half. But that's what a standard gouge is typically ground at. There's another grind that's a 60 degree angle. And the idea is that depending on the shape of the bowl you make, you would choose a 45 versus a 60 degree angle. Because the idea is that your gouge is your best friend. Your gouge can do probably the best job of any tool in your arsenal, especially with the kinds of woods that we have here in the Northwest. You know, the maples, the walnuts, cherries, those kinds of things. If you can learn to cut completely with a gouge and do it properly, you're going to be a happy camper. You don't have to go to a scraper. A gouge should be able to do the job. So if I take this is a 45 degree angle gouge, okay? Believe me. So if you have a bowl that's quite open, the idea is you want to be able to, I got to get this right, this is my bevel on my 45 degree gouge. And I'm going to come along here, and I'm going to be able to get all the way to the center, and I haven't hit this edge. Okay? Now, if I would have tried to do the same thing with a deeper bowl, and I try to come along here with the 45, and I come around, in theory, believe me, you're going to hit the wall before you can get to the center. That's where the 60 degree comes in, and the 60 degree grind allows you to come along here and get well into the center without touching the wall. Okay, and that's the difference between a 60 and a 45. Now this 60, where's the camera? Where can I hold this? Oh, I'll come over here. Whoops, you switched on me. I don't know if you can see this, but it's straight across. And it's at 60 degrees. Okay? And there's what a lot of people will use this for to finish the bottom of their bowls. Okay? Pass this one around. This is a 60 degree. I've had that gouge at least 25 years. And the reason it's still got some edge left to it is I don't make bowls like this very often. I tend to make more of an open bowl for a salad bowl for production. And I'll show you how to sharpen that too. Okay, so let's talk about the Wolverine jig. When I get a gouge back, I'll talk about it. So, the distance, this Varigrind jig, this comes with the Wolverine. I keep this at the same angle. Okay, it's probably 2.5, or it's kind of right about the middle. The distance from the end of here, oh, here we go. Here's one. Now these don't have much life left. So in theory, you're supposed to be able to get on the flat of the gouge to keep it flat, but this one, I'm not quite there. So I'll just kind of fudge it here. But the distance from here to here, the critical thing is that it's the same. It's not very important. It's somewhat important what the distance is. It can be anywhere from 1 3/4 to 2 inches. It doesn't make a lot of difference. And you can't quite see it on this grinder, but there's a little block attached here to the bottom of the grinder jig that's set at 1 7/8 inches. But I like to use 1 3/4 inches. So I'm going to eyeball it and come back 1/8 of an inch. So again, the distance here, it's consistent. All the jig really helps you do is it helps you be consistent. That you have the consistent distance from here to here, and that you get a consistent distance from here, to your cut, to where you're going to cut to the grinder. Now at home, what I've done, and my grinder burned out last night. I would have brought it, but it died last night as I was getting ready. Just what you need. So a real good rule of thumb is a little stick, 7 1/4 inches long. And if you put it in here and line it up with the center of your arbor, 7 1/4 is just about right. Okay? So you can just keep a little dowel handy, 7 1/4. Another way to look at it, can we hone in on the grinder here? Now this is a bad grind, so this one isn't ideal, but if it was a good grind, I should be able to see a straight line, straight line right here. I should be able to see that line right up on my grinder, and I'm at a good distance. So you don't have to use this stick if you're using your eyesight to line it up here so it's nice and straight right through here. And you've got a good surface. This is a bad grind, so it doesn't line up just right. What I did at home was I drilled a little hole here, put in a set screw, and a little dimple in my bar here so that I could find it in case, and I hardly ever move it. So that's how I line that up. Okay? Now, this one, for example. Let me get the good one. Where's that Carter? That's the one with the aluminum handle. That Carter, yeah, there's a Carter gouge. Bring that one up a minute. Now, if you go into YouTube, thanks. If you go into YouTube and you look at a lot of what I call the really high-end turners, the guys that really know what they're doing, they may not describe exactly what they're doing, but in the end, their gouge is their sharpening is almost identical. Every gouge looks almost identical. And the common thread is that you can put a flat piece of metal on the edges here, and it's perfectly flat. And you can look at video after video after video, and you're going to see that. If any of you are going to the conference in Portland, walk around and look at their tools. And you're going to see that this is very flat. Might be a different angle. The nose might be a different angle. They may have gotten there, but it's going to be flat. And and that's really the goal you're trying to get at. So when I talk about this one here being domed, you see how that rocks? That's what makes it in my opinion, a bad grind. Okay? I cannot be as efficient. It will cut, but I cannot be as efficient if that was flat. Okay? Another one that's more typical, let me see here, is this grind. If you were to put this on here, you can see air because it dips. And I imagine that some of you have gouges that look like that. Okay? It's not perfectly flat. And that's where I'm going to start here, because this one, I intentionally put a nice cup in it so I could show you what a bad gouge looks like. Okay? So I'm going to fix this one. Okay, now I like to stand on the side because I can see this. Now, if you can get the focus right in here, you can see that that's laying flat against the stone. I don't know if you can see that. That's probably pretty hard with all that silver. Let me see it. Can you see it there? Yeah, it's lining up. So I've got a good distance. The 7/4 is working. Now, this is the idea of the yoga behind the gym, is that I have to focus on keeping that flat. And the way I have to do that, let's see how much noise this makes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that because I've got this dip, I've got to cut more off the back, and I'm not going to cut any off the front. So I'm going to try that. So I'm just going to cut a little bit off the back. And that's a little better. I'm going to cut a little off the front. Well, that's just... There you go, that's better. Okay, this side now is perfectly straight. So I'm not going to do the front yet. If you think about it, and you're here on a jig, and you go just to the left, you go to the right, you go to the left, you go to the right. You've done the edge twice. You've done this edge twice, but you've cut the front 4 times. Okay? So you don't go back and forth, all the way around, back and forth, back and forth, all the way around. Because you're going to cut the front more, and you're going to end up getting that dip. So now I'm going to work on this side and get it nice and straight. Yeah, now that's nice and straight. And if I was to hold this big one, it's all flat. If I was to hold that there, it's flat. Now I can work the front. But now I can sharpen the front. And I'm going to do that very gingerly because I don't want to take off much material off the front. Just a little bit. And now I got a dip. Because I cut too much on the front. Okay? say this side. That side's pretty good. That side's nice and straight. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is you go back and forth, one side, to the other side, and then come around to the front. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen, fix another. No, I tend to use the 180 here, but you know, John Jordan, when he was here visiting, he stayed at my house, and so I got to spend 6 days with him. And he liked to tell a story. He used an 80 grit on this side, and he used an 80 grit on this side. Okay? So, you know, with wood turning and with the softer woods that we have here, it's not as critical. You know, you're going to go back to this more times than not, and so I'm using 180, but I think I'd be comfortable with the 80. So, all right, I'm looking for one here. Well, yeah, sure. He's asking about, is it better to have a CBN on one side and a regular on the other side? My answer to that would be yes, okay, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes you're working in the shop and you're cutting the end off a bolt and it's soft metal and you want to round it. Well, you go to CBN, that soft metal can clog it up. And so you really do need a traditional grinding wheel, and you really only need one wheel to sharpen everything. It's just a matter of whether you swap out the flat table or this table. And if you only have to buy one CBN, you know, the price is right? It's better. But I don't think you need two CBNs. I don't think you need a fine and a coarse. Nothing wrong with it, but I just don't think you need it. You're better off, if you can't afford a second grinder to put the old grinding wheels on, then you're better off having this grinder for all those hack jobs you're doing in the shop, like most of us do, okay? All right, now this one, let's put this up here. You can see this one's got a really long grind, okay? And this one, it's really hard to see in the camera, but if I was to hold this up, you want your gouge, you want the sides to be kind of straight, you know, a little bit of a taper. This one goes way in, so you've got a lot of material out here on the bottom. So in order to use this, you have to roll it way over to get the bevel, because you've got so much meat here. And this one I'm not going to even mess with because it's so short. But this is a good example of a real long grind, which is okay. It's great for shear cutting, but it's got a little dip. It's really long. And again, it's nothing wrong with long, but you got to know, if you look at this one, there's actually two bevels. And this one's not going to cut real well. So pass that around and you can look at that. You can see what I mean by these things are tipping way in. And you've got all this meat on the outside. If you look at a good one, this one here, these are much straighter, and you don't have, you know, this tip, and so that's more efficient for cutting. Let's see, what do we got here? This one's got, one side is really nice and straight, the other side's domed, so I'm going to put it in, get my distance set right. And I'm going to look at this and get rid of that dome. Now this one's actually got a bad angle too, so that's going to take more work. This is where the grit would work better. I don't know if I can get down there. But I'm staying in one area because I want to fix that one area and get it flat. I just went through my old drawer last night when I didn't have it. There you go, now that's straight. This one was rolled over too much as well, so I'll pass this one around. And when I do, it's going to be quite hot, so don't touch it. But these sides are a lot straighter now. They weren't dipped in like that other one. But you can see that it's nice and straight.
Right?
Yeah.
Who brought the dip into it?
I did.
Thank you.
I did. I used this for 4 or 5 years. Right. Okay. Let's do the 60 grit. 60 grit. I keep saying grit.
60 degrees.
60 degree. Well, we got to wait for the grinder to slow down. There's a couple different ways you can do it. If you haven't seen these Raptors, these are pretty handy. This is a 60 degree Raptor, 50, 40, 45, and this is one thing about these CBNs. I can set this on here to set it at 60, okay? I can do it that way. And once it's set at 60, then I can use this table to just roll it. Come on, come on, come on, come on. But the way that I usually do it is I just, oops, hopefully see if this isn't going to be long enough. That's close. Okay, that's close. So this is just a matter of I'm going to roll it over a little bit farther and knock those corners off. Whoa, that's really up there. Yeah, help me hold the thing down. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, that's... Then what I did was I round these corners off a little bit so they don't catch. So let's turn a piece of wood and see how these guys work. Whoops. Okay, before I go there, one thing I also do, and I'll talk about why. See this piece of green tape here? I don't know if you can see that. There you go.
I'm getting there.
What I've done is I've lined it up so that the end of that green tape shows me exactly where this is, this edge. Okay? So that way I can do it. Now, on my lathe, I got a little block of wood I cut, and I just lay the block of wood in there. Okay? I'm getting old, and there's all kinds of ways to measure how thick your bottom is. So now I use this, and this lines up perfectly with this. So as it gets closer, I can see when I've got, you know, my thickness left. I go in phases of what I turn. And right now I'm turning really thin wall and really lightweight, like that little piece of holly, if you picked it up. Parts of it are less than 1/8 of an inch. And so this really helps me find the bottom, or at least gives me an idea. So I have 2 lathes at home. This is for my little lathe. I had to add a block here so I could come up to 8 inches so I could use it on this lathe. So I'm in this mode today, or this right now, where I really like turning green wood and turning it thin. So that usually it's a natural edge. I'll do a natural edge in a minute. I just wanted to turn this a little bit and talk about what typical problems there are, what people run into. Anytime I can, I put my my tailstock up there. When I got here tonight, I put put my drive center in here, and then I ran this thing up to see if I was point to point. You need to check your lathe on that, because if you're not point to point, and you do something like this, where you run this thing up, you could be putting pressure on it, and when you're turning long pieces and you pull this off, it'll go out around. So you have to be careful and make sure. And what I like to do typically is get this running a little bit, and then I'll run this up. So this is not round right now because it was on my lathe yesterday, and it wasn't this isn't my chuck and all kinds of things. And so what I'm going to do now is show you how some of the mistakes that people run into when they're using their gouge. Now, I can't say enough about when you're a beginner, you're advanced, you've been doing it for 30 years, turn green wood. It's great stuff.